Issues at Hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
October 18th, 2023, the year is fast spent and it is going very, very fast. We are left with a little to 2 months to end the year, and I always tell you, in case you made some goals and you were able to achieve them, it is kudos to you, congratulations on your goals. But if you had made some other goals that you weren't able to achieve, still you don't give up, and of course you can try again next year. But also in these 2 months, some miracles can happen. I believe in miracles. I believe that something great can change in just 1 month, 1 day, or 1 week, actually, because even those of us who believe in the Bible, it says, of course, that Rome was not built in a day. But of course, you never know, you just keep trying. My name is Carol. You're welcome to Issues at Hand this morning. It is a great morning, and we are here again to get into the issues that are making headlines in our country, society, and of course our nation and our district, Kampala. We were going to put more emphasis on Kampala today because of course this is where we stay, and this is the capital city of Uganda. If anything goes wrong in Kampala, then everything will go wrong around Uganda. Now, of course, we discuss issues to do with economy, issues to do with security, but of course not forgetting educational, where of course the UCE started their exams. The UCE students of this year started the exams already, and we pray for them to excel and of course go to greater heights. But also we remember that the UPC president, Jimmy Akena, was ousted recently, and UPC is yet to vote for another president, and of course things like that. But today we are going to talk about the environment, the impact on the presidential order on environment. Of course, environment is a very big topic, and it's dear to our hearts, because once the environment is fine, then we, the people who live in this environment, are also fine. Now remember that you can follow us on our social media platforms. That's at Church of Uganda Family TV, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we are live on YouTube right now, where you can go and join the discussion on our page, Church of Uganda Family TV on YouTube. You can comment and follow with the conversation. Tell us what you think about it, and of course give us some few tips here and there. You can also comment what you would like the speaker of the day to talk about and address, and we shall be getting you live and clear. Don't forget to share so that each and every one of your friends can also see. Remember, we are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best. They have a very long list of services that you can go and enjoy, including accommodation, gym, the spa, and the swimming pool, and many other services like very, very beautiful dishes, continental cuisines, as well as African dishes that you can go and try out anytime. I love their buffet. It's very, very beautiful. They are located in the heart of Entebbe. Today, I have a guest in studio. His name is Kureeba David, and he's from the National Association of Professional Environmentalists. He's going to tell us more about it, but he's also going to say hi to us before we get into the discussion. You're very welcome this morning, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to say hi to our viewers?
Yeah. Good morning, our viewer. Watching in.
Yeah. Okay, tell us about the National Association of Professional Environmentalists. Of course, from the name, we already know that it's about environment, but we would like to understand your mandate and your vision, what you're doing for Ugandans at large.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Like I've said, my name is Kureeba David. I work with the National Association of Professional Environmentalists. National Association of Professional Environmentalists is a non-governmental organization that works to ensure that the environment in which we live lives in harmony with people. And we work towards ensuring that communities ultimately benefit from the resources that they protect and they live with. And we work largely with communities. And at national level, we do lobby and advocacy, because there are policies that really do not favor communities. We always fight to see that we get pro-people policies and laws. Okay. And to ensure that people now live in harmony with the environment, and that development does not take precedent over environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Today the discussion is revolving around particularly the presidential directive, but not limited to that. We're going to look at the environment and the impact of the things that we are doing to harm the environment. In future, what are they going to bring us? But to start off with our discussion, the National Forestry Authority had vowed to continue enforcing the President's directive on charcoal products and trade despite the growing outcry over the skyrocketing prices. Now, in May this year, President Museveni issued an executive order number 3, which among others banned the production of and trade of charcoal in northern Uganda, particularly because it was getting intense in northern Uganda as part of the efforts to protect the environment. Before we get there though, I would like to start with the protection of river banks. Let's start the conversation from this direction. The river banks, the protection of river banks. What do you have to say about the protection of river banks?
Yeah, thank you. Like you said, actually environmental discussions are very interesting because all our life form depends on environment. Going back to the river banks, you know, the law provides and states that for any development, mega project, it should leave 200 meters for big for big rivers and dams and lakes. And for small streams, we talk about 100 meters. But what we see happening, if, for example, if I could bring in the example of the establishments that I've already seen. If you go to Karangara, for example, where Bidco established an oil palm plantation,
yes,
you realize that not even 100 meters were left in some areas. They left 50, 70, 100. They did not adhere to the required law. And before the formulation of the law, of course, they had thought about the runoffs, chemicals that run into the water, they talk about sedimentation. But you know, when it comes to the developer, I don't know whether the developers are more powerful than the government. You find that the developer does the way he wants to do it. You'll find that even if you go to wetlands nearing the lake, the development and including those beaches have gone up the watermark, which to me is a little bit disastrous. Because if you look at marine ecosystem, when we talk about buffer, it is something that stops pollution, that stops runoff. That is now the hedge that would stop any runoff that would end up this degrading marine ecosystem. But unfortunately, what we see happening, if you look at the factories around the lake, and you'll find even pollutants end up in the lake. You see pipes running through the wetlands. So the purification of wastes before they get into the water system is not taken care of. And I think the riverbank protection and the observation of the 200 meters from big lakes and big rivers is not protected. But even for small streams, it is not done. You will even find agriculture in some areas. If you go to River Easy, if you go to all these places, people grow food up to the riverbank, which I don't know. And yet, of course, at government level, local government, at the district, we have environmental officers who are supposed to be doing that. But I don't know what exactly happens. But I don't see emphasis on how these riverbanks are protected, despite the employment that is given to the employees that are working in the government to enforce the laws.
Okay, so you are talking about the required law to protect particularly these riverbanks, and I'm wondering, what is the required law? What are some of those laws that can protect these riverbanks?
No, like I said, the law requires that for any development, you must leave 200 meters. And of course, you must do an environmental and social impact assessment to ascertain whether or not that project is fit to be established where it is proposed. But oftentimes, these studies are inadequate, and they just Xerox them. So you find even some projects may end up not even having some of these clear environmental impact assessments, and even the consultations are not done adequately. So much as an environmental and social impact is a requirement that has to be done and which informs the development, oftentimes it is inadequately done. It is shoddily done, because he who pays the piper determines the tune. The developer pays the person to do the SAIA, Environmental and Social Impact Assessment. What do you expect? If I pay you to write for me a proposal to establish a project near Lake Victoria, of course, you would not, the mitigations, you would not put so many negative impacts.
Of course.
You would even put mitigations, much as it is seen as a project that would destroy the ecosystem or the environment. But because you have paid me and you determine what I need to produce at some point, certainly the report will be positive to the project that you want to establish.
So we are prioritizing money and earning out of these riverbanks instead of protecting them for the future.
Exactly. You've put it right. Development it's precedented over environment. Environment is something that we all survive on, and even we should be surviving today without compromising the future generation. Because if you gave me another 40 years, I'm 50, I'll be 90, and 90, that is the extreme. Certainly, there is another life after 90. My son, my daughter, your daughter, some other people's daughters and sons need also to survive. I shouldn't only feed myself without looking at the future generation that is happy, that is coming.
Yeah.
Our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents left left nature intact.
Yes.
Then why do we have to destroy it when we also have to leave it to the next generation? So we must make sure that we protect it, because money cannot be chewed, cannot be eaten. Certainly what we eat must come from environment. You may have even $10,000 in your pocket. If there is no food in any hotel, you certainly not chew those papers. It comes back to food, because food is the primary security, and food comes from clean and safe environment. And certainly if we don't protect our environment, then we shall have the worst insecurity, which is food. Okay. Food insecurity is the worst insecurity that a country can have. Yeah.
And Uganda seems to be headed that direction.
I'm telling you, I travel up country. Up country, we used to think that food is readily available. But if you go to up country from any urban center, you end up living like in the urban, because most of these things are not there. Can you imagine in the village, a kilo of beans now is at 5,000 and the same price here? Actually, in comparative, even much cheaper than some areas, because some areas have actually run short of beans, or short of food. They have to also move like people move. But you see here, being the cosmopolitan, being the center, Kotito people bring, Masaka people bring, Barara people bring, Itendero, every other person brings. This is a center. But in some areas where they come from, they run short of them. So in some areas, actually, it is expensive to get food. If food is even not there. Yeah.
Wow. So let's go to policy. First of all, the policy makers have put in place some policies, and of course, we have seen the presidential directive itself. Are these still helping us? Are they impactful, those policies? The people who are making these policies are the same people who are going behind and taking bribes for the environment to be destroyed. What do you have to say about that?
I think that is the biggest problem that we have. We have very good policies and laws, because if you're talking about development, that we leave that those meters away from the resource that will be protected. If, for example, if you look at wetlands are supposed to be jealously protected, because the law provides for no modification, no drainage, and all those activities that destroy the wetlands are not entertained. But you look at all these wetlands around us and see what is happening. All the drainage, and it is a double tragedy. We make two losses, because in filling a wetland, you must destroy either a hill somewhere, a mountain, or some landscape must be degraded so that you get that soil, come and infill it here. If you to infill a wetland and you are able to run on it for some time, you must start with the stones. So extracting stones, you must destroy a certain hill somewhere to get those stones and infill a wetland, bring maram, and also from a certain hill, meaning that now you're losing the wetland, and at the same time you are losing the hills and the uplands. So that is the problem. So the laws are good, but the enforcers are not enforcing them properly. The laws are not implemented. Where the problem comes from, I think it rotates around governance. It rotates around governance because now, if, for example, you look at government of Uganda, employing people to manage wetlands or forests, and the same forest, if you talk about Bugoma, you have NEMA, that is the National Environmental Management Authority, in this era of climate change, where even Ugandans, Africa over, the impacts of climate change are really felt. And you see a natural forest being destroyed just to establish sugar cane, an equivalent of diabetes. It really does not make any environmental sense. Because ultimately, what will be the end? Yes, you'll grow sugar cane, you have your ethanol, you have all these things that are making even kids and young ones run mad. Ethanol, you make alcohol, you're making all that and sugars. But it cannot be compared with the amount of carbon dioxide sequestered by the forests. It cannot be equated to the amount of oxygen given out to the communities and to the nation. It cannot be compared with the microclimate that the forest gives back to the people around it, even far and beyond. So I think there are some decisions that are made which are really very, very wrong.
Talking about wrong decisions, people have land titles to wetlands. I don't know how you see this or how we can solve this particular problem of somebody having a land title to a wetland, meaning they are entitled to build on the wetland. They are entitled to use that land how they fit or how they feel it fit, because they have the land title.
In a culture, at times, men don't change words. They don't change words. They only turn in bed. Like they don't change. You cannot make a statement and all of a sudden you change.
Change it.
So I don't know how I would have done it direct translation. But men, once you have made a statement, you shouldn't be changing. At times I pity our president. Our president has the passion, I think, for environment, but I think the people that he's entrusted with the power to manage the environment, I think either they are frustrating him or there is some game somewhere which is not understood. At some point way back, the president put a decree that all titles in the wetland should be cancelled. But what would it take to cancel a wetland? I mean, a title that had been issued legally. But then the law provides that wetlands do not belong to individuals, they belong to government. So how do you get a title in the wetland? But also it goes back to the surveys, the department in charge of surveys and issuing these titles. Don't they have particular areas where they are not supposed to be issuing titles anyway? What does the law provide? Are they working outside the law? If they say wetlands belong to the government, then why do you have to give me a title as an individual, as Kureeba David? Why should I have a title? Why wouldn't that title be null and void? I mean, why wouldn't it be an illegal issuance of title? How would it be legal when it has been issued in a wrong place? So I think that one is a very big problem for this country, for our climate, for our survival, for our livelihoods, for our biodiversity, for the survival of nature. Actually, we are not degrading the environment, we are degrading ourselves. Because the environment just is there to feed us. We are surviving on the environment. But the environment is not surviving on us. By the way, environment can survive without us. Yes, but we are surviving on the environment and we are not respecting it. So, the issuance of titles, it is a very big problem of titles in wetlands. And very many titles are being issued. And titles in the city center here, they are fencing it every night. When I was coming for this talk show this morning, I passed via, there is a wetland between, I think, Zana and Nyanama. There is some, I think, Chinese or something. I don't know, there is some establishment. There was that establishment. But I was scared to see that the whole wetland now has been fenced. It looks like a farm. So shortly after, the president said that no more establishments of such infrastructure in the wetlands. I looked at the fence. I could not believe that the presidential directive on protection of wetlands can ever work. Because as they talk about protection, intense work now goes into wetlands. So how can wetlands be protected when a lot of developments are still ongoing at a very terrific speed? Yeah, so I think the issues of titles and cancellation of titles is a very big either the government could not stand the cost of maybe compensating people that were issued with titles, or the owner of titles were the ones supposed either to cancel them. It could be that way. You know, you at times you find that the decision is hitting the wall. The people that are supposed to cancel the titles are the owners of the titles. So certainly that would be problematic. So cancellation to me would be a very good thing, and I would encourage it. I would encourage it so that now the wetlands are kind of rejuvenated, are rehabilitated. Okay. Yes.
We are still talking about activities that would impact the environment. Anything to add on activities that would impact the environment negatively?
The activities that impact environment are so many. If you look at our traditional agricultural system, we used to till land and get our indigenous seeds and plant them. Yeah. But now if you go to the deepest village, if you go to Ivanda, if you go deep, if you go to Kazo, if you go to Kabare, people are growing. They no longer want to till land. They want to get, I think, glyphosate-related chemicals. They just spray, and the weeds die. And weeds, you are talking about any plant that grows where it is not wanted. Yeah. So a weed can be something that you want to plant. A weed can be the food, the vegetables that we eat. So something that kills the green coloring matter, and it is allowed unregulated and used in the country. That's where the challenge comes in. Something that kills the green coloring matter, and you want to plant something that also has the green coloring matter, that does photosynthesis. I don't know how sometimes some of these farmers think that you are going to spray a dodo, it dies, then you plant beans. It is almost the same photosynthesis process, the same color, and how sustainable the land will thrive after you have used it. So the use of unregulated agrochemicals is also a very big problem in the environment. Our bees have died. First, we have bees as major pollinators. These small birds. We have the beetles. We have the flies. We have the butterflies. Once you all use these chemicals, what happens to them? How do they survive? How do they survive? So the use of agrochemicals largely have an impact on the thrive and survival of our environment, because the pollinators, the igniters of how environment must multiply. These small birds which eat from here, it drops a seed somewhere. So that multiplication of seeds from one place to the other becomes limited. That's why species of trees, birds and animals are disappearing at a terrific speed. And in as long as they are disappearing at that rate, then you know that they are not only birds disappearing, but also we are partially disappearing. We will not get food that we used to get earlier. The cancers will rise because we eat chemicals in everything that we eat now. Chemicals all through. You eat chemicals as you take beans. You eat chemicals with then those people who eat cabbages. Those ones, it's a different story. Tomatoes, all these onions, they are grown using chemicals, meaning that now our bodies are full of chemicals. Yeah. If you look at our health system, recently, I have old parents, but if you go to Murago, if you go to all these private hospitals, then you get to understand where we are going, because healthcare, going for medical services, is not an easy walk to freedom. You may end up, it is never cheap at all. You may end up losing everything that you own, because at some point, if you are hospitalized, you have no choice other than to look for money and get treatment. Look, education is expensive, but I can decide I can make a decision that is contrary to people. But when it comes to health, it is a disaster. So as we eat all these chemicals from the food that we eat, because the food that we eat is not safe. It's not safe at all. So if it is not safe, who is the ultimate person that will suffer the consequences of these chemicals? It is you and I. Yes. So that is one of them, like agrochemicals, but also structures as in terms of building. You know, these small community people that grow mayuni, they don't destroy wetland. These people who just grow a few sugar canes for survival, they don't destroy a wetlands as terrible as people who establish factories. Or if you look at factories around the wetlands, if you go around them, I don't know, here at Family TV, at some point you need to do some small questioning of some of the environment, some of these factories near the wetlands. If you look at the environmental audits, and if you ask the government whether these companies remit environmental audits and they are made public, you will realize that now if you look at how they manage the wastes, it is a disaster. Waste actually we end up in wetlands, and wetlands with water, it keeps seeping, and water, you know, wetlands feed the aquifers, the water level. So when pollutants are on top, certainly the pollutants will seep. Some will come through species that grow, that are seep, but also the life. I don't know where you stay, but I don't know how many times you have had the frogs. Like the rain season now, you'd be hearing for those were natural ways of understanding that it was going to rain. I would even tell those days when I was still young in the village, I would tell that it's going to rain. I would look at the wind, I would look at the birds moving this side, I would look at, that is the meteorology, local meteorology, indigenous meteorology. You would even know, you wake up in the morning, you hear the sound of even either frogs or birds, and you'd tell that yes, it's going to rain. But now, where are the frogs? Where do they go? We don't eat frogs in Uganda here. Where do they go? We are not like some countries where frogs are eaten. We don't eat frogs. But frogs are nowhere to be seen. You would not see any butterflies. You would not see even black ants. Black ants would be a symbol. You would see them going either west, south, north, northeast. They would tell, you would know that since these ants are taking this direction, naturally that was the meteorology that they would use. You'd know that yes, certainly, yes, this is what is happening. It's either going to rain, this is going to happen. You'd look at grasshoppers. Yes. The grasshoppers have now turned out to be for the rich. In the villages, we used to have grasshoppers towards around this time. Is it coming to December? November, December, that's when we'd get. But in the villages now, if you go to my place, you go to Mbarara, some places where in some hills you would certainly get the grasshoppers. They are not there for so many years. The rich have grabbed them with light. So all those are changes that will eventually be paid for. Because these grasshoppers would come around that time. They would do a lot of pollination. I used to be one of the fun. I would run up and down. They would move from here, they pollinate here, they pollinate here. So as grasshoppers move from one area to the other, they are pollinating. They are not just doing anything. They are pollinating, but also for those who eat senene. Of course, they are highly nutritious. They are highly nutritious. But the nutrition is now distributed to only those that can buy them and that can tap them. So I think the issue of those, that is also environmental disaster. If we talk about construction in the wetlands, it's actually very, it's also a disaster, especially with permanent structures. There are those people who build makeshift. Yes, makeshift. They also destroy, but the magnitude is not as terrible as people who put those very, very permanent structures that cannot even allow percolation and easy flow of water from one point to the other. So that is it. But also the introduction of alien species. If you look at this country and the indigenous species that we used to have, look at eucalyptus coverage, look at pine, look at very many, including oil palm. They displace our broad-leaved indigenous leaves that take in a lot of carbon dioxide and release a lot of water. So you will find now, if you go to any place, I don't know whether you stay in any area where there is some grass next to, you will not see, they call it musoro in Uganda. What is it called? mist in the
The
morning,
dew,
the
yeah.
dew in the morning. You will not see it. And when you look at agriculturists, they need 80% of the sunshine and 20% of the rain, meaning that the other main percentage that enables plants to grow is that dew that you see in the morning. There's always a lot of water on leaves, on grass.
Yeah.
When you go through it, you see it's a lot of water. Do you see it anywhere now? Where it is supposed to be coming from, the source has been compromised, it has been killed. It comes from these trees, and these trees have been cut with broad leaves. You have needle leaves of the pine. Certainly these ones cannot emit moisture that can go and do wet precipitation on the other leaves or on the plants beneath. So that is the challenge.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Since we are talking about trees now, maybe let's get to the forests, because they are being destroyed. First of all, who is destroying the forests and the environment, and also why? Because we know some of the reasons why that forests are being destroyed is survival. How? They get the forest and make charcoal out of them. The charcoal that is used to cook the food that we eat, and it is a cheaper option when it comes to energy alternatives. So what do you have to say about destruction of forests in Uganda?
Forests in Uganda are like kept under like 3 or 4 categories. One, we have privately owned forests, which constitute around 70%, which is under the district forestry services. We have around 15% under Uganda Wildlife Authority, and around 15% which is under Uganda National Forest Authority. But if you look at those forests, the forests that are under Uganda Wildlife Authority, they are a little intact. If you go to forests under local government, that is privately owned, that's a disaster. That's a disaster. And if you go to NFA, that one is also almost disastrous. Why? Because those are the forests held in trust for the people. And if you look at developments that come and take those forests, it's a disaster. You look at green resources in Kureeba and in Kachung for a bit of carbon trading and charcoal business. There are around 830 families that were there and were evicted, and they are producing food for the region, and of course they are surviving as families. But if you evict them and bring one company, and it doesn't employ them, they still disperse. Then it does. I would not call that one development, because it has to have the social element. If communities had some shrines, have some points where they go and get cleansed and get some blessings, you don't allow them in. If communities, forests are not supposed, if you look at community forest management, a few people can get a few dead wood, and forest is not supposed just to be there when communities are not benefiting from it. So communities are not the ones, these local communities, these people with panga and axe. What can you do to a tree of I don't know how to say it. These trees that they use, the pit saw. If you look at an axe, what can it do to that one? So forests largely that are under like NFA, it is because of giving them to developers for agribusiness. You heard of Bugoma. Bugoma lies in an area where we are drilling oil and gas. There is a lot of oil-related infrastructure. You're talking about roads, you're talking about pipes, you're talking about camps for workers, you're talking about the machinery that emits a lot of carbon dioxide day in, day out. We need to get a scientist and get the level of emissions. I would expect that area where you have constructed even an airport, an international airport, because there are airport and aviation emissions, I would expect that you ensure that that one becomes some bit of an offset, that a lot of carbon dioxide that is generated by automobiles, by the drilling machines, by those vehicles moving around, by the pipeline and by heat stations and all that, I would expect that you need that infrastructure like a forest where carbon dioxide is absorbed. But when the same forest is destroyed and you plant grass, you plant sugar cane, that one becomes a very big challenge at some point. To me, that one was not a well-thought decision.
Okay.
Because without even sugar cane, we can still survive, surely. It's not a priority for this country.
True.
It's not at all. So, to me, that is a challenge when it comes to when you decide we make a decision that impacts generally, and by the way, a forest like Bugoma does not only serve the Bunyoro region, it serves the entire world. It serves people in Imbarara, serves people in Igulu. So, if you destroy that forest, it has an impact. Go to Kalangala and see agribusiness. That is the oil palm. It has a lifespan of 25 years. You have a tax of over 15 years, even an equivalent of the time the oil palms will survive. You have destroyed close to 10,000 hectares of natural species, including grasslands, in a fragile ecosystem like Lake Victoria, which is one of the great lakes in the region, with fresh water, and so many cascading dams which need water from the catchments. And you have the Masaka region, which largely, because the rain that we have, either from Indian Ocean and Congo, and the microclimate that we get here. Now, you will realize that some parts in Masaka Kadisizo will run dry because the microclimate around the area has been compromised. And it will even be made worse if the Sangobe is dealt with. Because Sangobe, they are also going to plant oil palms. And certainly Lake Sangobe, part of it is the Ramsar site. That is a wetland of international importance. So, the establishment of such developments like agribusiness. And when you look at the employment, I happen to have visited those communities. First of all, the standard of living is very low. Secondly, the payment is unbearable. And people that are employed in those agribusiness establishments are not from within the area where the project was established, but they're from another area, from other areas. They get them from Guru, from Soroti, from where, and it's as if they're in the prison, because when you cross and get into Karangara, Sese Islands, then for you to go back, you need to think about how you're powerful in the pocket. So to me, you find some of these establishments do not largely benefit local communities. Yes, you have the roads, but what do people transport on those roads other than their poverty into urban areas? You may have a good road, but what are you using the road for? Are you using that road to transport your poverty to the urban centers and disturb your relatives? Or you just seeing it and it never serves you? You're not having a vehicle to drive on that car. You're not having any panda chance. I would think that if you have a road, you have a product which is serving you. You're using it to either transport your commodity for sale. People are coming in. You have an ecotourism site. People are bringing in money. So it is serving you. But merely saying the tarmac road was constructed, and so what? And so what? So I think the establishment of those agribusinesses in those forest areas are a very big problem. So the management of forests are a bit lacking. Okay. They are a bit lacking even because of the so many, I don't know whether you would call it districtization, gerrymandering. You have so many, a bit of gerrymandering, so many. You have 500 and something. I can't imagine people. What are you, 500 people legislating what? 500 something. A meeting of, by the way, like this country, if you look at how districts are being split because of the policy of the number of people in a certain area, so that you bring services closer to them. You are not bringing services closer to you. You are bringing taxes closer to yourself. You are not bringing any good services at all for you to claim you need a district. You are bringing services and taxes very close. If you have been taking your banana to the market without paying a usuru for it, next time if they introduce a district to a town council, my friend, they will say, for it to pass here, pay 500 for this bunch of matoke. So what they are inviting, what they want, they are not services. Actually, they are looking for where they can give services. So when I see people wanting districts, it is okay. Have the district, but you will sustain it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a very short break. It is a very intense discussion, and these are things that are happening in our society, in our community, and we are living with these things. However, we have to find a way to mitigate them and make sure that we find a way out and, of course, live harmoniously with the environment, because the environment is protecting us. It is our environment, and we should also protect it back instead of destroying it. My name is Kara. We are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. We're taking a very short break, and then we'll be back with our discussion.
Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
When people die, they are good. A dead body is always good. He has done us good. We cannot replace him. There's no one who is repressible. There's no one. But what can help you? It is to leave a good legacy that people will remember you.
Sometimes I share with my students a small story of an animal which normally is regarded to be the wisest, the hare. Once in a meeting of animals chaired by the lion, which was the king of the animals, he said that all those who are in the meeting and are not married should go out. This is for the marrieds. And then the hare put up a hand. I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Yes. What is it? He said, what about some of us who sleep like married people? Should we also go?
And may I say to those of you who are not yet married, determine what kind of family you want to raise. Because the family that you raise, the children that you get, you will either sink them or you will raise them up to be good citizens and good people in the church.
If you read Proverbs 16:1, they tell you that the plans of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord.
Because we all need love. As long as we are humans, we need love. Now he says yes, but I'm praying that you will experience the greater love.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV, enriching lives. Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
Yes, comfort and luxury at its best. Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. And of course, you need to check out their services. They are located in the heart of Entebbe. We're back with Issues at Hand. My name is Carol. Thank you so much for keeping it Church of Uganda Family TV. Now, I'd like to thank the social media community for following us religiously when it comes to YouTube, because we be live. We stream this show live. And from there is where we are going to get our first question to lead us to the next discussion. Now, there's somebody called Kenneth Muhwezi, and he says, question to Kureeba David, what would be the best solution to protect the environment? And I think, of course, our guest will be able to answer this. So our viewer is asking, what would be the best solution to protect our environment?
The best solution to protect the environment, one, they talked about, where is teach about patriotism. So there is need for environmental patriotism, because it is the backbone of patriotism. One, these forests, we should look at them as other beings. Other beings, actually they are living beings, that without them, we may not survive. These laws that we have in place, they should be implemented really. If you are talking about protection of riverbanks, protect them. If you are talking about natural forests being conserved for sequestration in this area of climate change, let these wetlands be kept, these forests be kept intact. If you can have even a budget, because the agricultural budget, and if you look at, for example, an institution like NEMA, yes, NEMA is sometimes compromised. I sometimes pity them. What budget do they run? I think NEMA also needs to be supported. They are financed and given money to monitor environmental compliance. Okay. They give permits to some of these companies, but then the compliance also is not forthwith. Recently, you heard of what happened in Bugoma. The licenses and the conditions that were given, they worked against them. And they were that's NEMA was telling Hoima Sugar to restore the degraded ecosystem, or else they retrieve the permit. So I think NEMA needs also to be supported in terms of finances. From the last discussion, and we are on a certain talk show with the executive director, the funding, they didn't have any funding to monitor some of the environmental resources, some of this work. So I think they are just given salaries. I was asking them, why are you given salaries to do what? You are given salary to do what? So I think there is need for this to be given a budget so that they are able to do what they are supposed to do. Like the president said, people do what they are not ought to do and not do what they ought to do. You see? So let them be given money so that they do what they are supposed to do, since they are the ones at the apex of managing the environment. Because at the end of it all, it goes back again to them. Whatever he said, he has said to NEMA, because for us, we don't have the mandate to enforce. They are the ones who enforces.
Okay. So under still that question of what needs to be done at different levels from different players, like you're mentioning NEMA, the directive was largely, the presidential directive was largely dismissed by the public because they survive on charcoal. Any alternatives to energy? What can we use to, because we have to cook food at the end of the day, we have to eat. So what are the alternatives to cutting down trees for charcoal?
The alternatives are quite many. But before I go to the alternatives, I must first of all look at the cost of electricity that we have in our respective homes.
Okay.
Personally, I live in a house where it is installed with hydroelectric power, but I don't cook using power. Despite being an environmental activist, I can't manage using a cooker. If we are saying climate change is hitting us hard, and we already have these cascading dams and a lot of power generation. At some point I had, was it the president saying that power is generated, but there is less consumption. There are no people to consume it. But we cannot. I load 10 units, and now electricity, hydroelectric power is reduced to only lighting. But if there was a government program that looks at reducing the cost of units, not these other lies of you first use 100 units, that you first buy 100 units, then they subsidize. No, that is Maremesa. You are making people fail. Why don't you start from, if you are buying 20 units, you subsidize the 20 units. Don't tell me that if you buy 100 units, then you subsidize. It is as if you are looking at rate of stock turnover. You are into sales, that even the money that you lose, if from here, you get it from the rate of stock turnover, the number of units that would have been consumed. So I think for me, to start with, for urban areas, electricity needs to be subsidized. The government must have a strong hand in electricity so that now we are able to cook using electricity. If I was able to cook a light meal using electricity, that would work. That is one. Two, in the civil society, we can talk about energy-saving technologies. so that we build stoves that use less firewood, less cubic units of firewood, as opposed to, say, stone stove, where you just put and a lot of energy is lost. And that one should cut across and go to all these institutions. If you look at how many barracks do we have in this country and how much wood do they use. If you go to institutions, high learning institutions, Makerere, Ndeje, KIU, so many of those, how much wood do they use and where does it come from? If you look at all these secondary schools, primary schools, nursery schools, all those cook, what do they use to cook? So I think for me, the construction of energy saving technologies in the very many institutions, it should be number one, because it would reduce on the demand from the forest. Certainly we have to keep using wood. Nobody should tell you a lie. Even when the president stopped the burning of charcoal, people in Guru are using charcoal. Where does it come from? It doesn't come from Barara. It comes from within. And that is one, energy saving technologies. And then the reduction in taxes. If there could be some subsidy on units, there is a lot that is charged on units. People cannot cook using power. But if I was using power, then we would know that the cascading dams on River Nile, on those small ones, at least that is where, that much as we made some loss in terms of biodiversity loss when the dams were being built, when we lost our sceneries, our falls, at least now it is compensating for energy and our forests are also saved. But that is not happening still. Power is very expensive and we cannot cook using it. We can also go biogas. For those people that can use wastes, can construct biogas and be able to cook light meal. But also we can go clean energy in terms of alternatives. Yes, we talk about renewable energy in terms of solar, but the only small challenge with solar is where do also materials that construct that into lithium. You're talking about lead, you're talking about batteries, you're talking about batteries and their exposed and how they are exposed management is a bit of a challenge. But largely now that we have, for me, where I see issues of dealing with forests and the energy bit would be something that would chip in to give us mileage. That's what we would leverage on. And then we manage our waste. If you look at the waste generation in urban centers, where does it go? It ends up in landfills. Landfills, methane is lost. But if the government could fund, so that in that way, one would make organic fertilizers from our wastes generated here. Other than piling all this waste, you take it and dump it. That would not that would save. But also, the gas that is generated by those wastes could also be tapped and be sold. There was a government program on I see yellow LGDP, liquid gas. That gas that is given yellow, I saw it in some petrol stations. I think I saw it at Starbucks. That could be one of the moves, but the question is, where does also gas come from? Wherever it comes from, but in as long as you have one element where you like tapping it from wastes and it doesn't just disappear, that one would save. So if we had gas subsidized and we know that yes, we're tapping into gas, and where gas is being gotten from, there is proper management of environment. I think that way would reduce on destruction of forests, and that would be a savior, so that now we are not the ultimate consumers of environmental resources and compromising the future generation from enjoying enjoying nature. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Because of time, we shall end here. Our hour is already done. But we want to thank you so much for making time for Family TV and coming to educate the people and also give them solutions. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
All right. Thank you so much for being a part of Issues at Hand this morning. Kenneth Muhwezi from YouTube, I hope that your question was answered very, very well. And I hope that even the public out there has gotten a thing or two about environment and how to protect it, because it is the source of of our lives. If it is destroyed, then of course we shall have problems. However, we shouldn't forget that God is the absolute source of our lives, and of course he is the one that knows our future and how it's going to turn out. I believe it is going to be a good ending, that like he promised, and of course we are continuing with the day's program. There are very, very many other programs coming in after this one, like the lunchtime request, UG Wave, and the sports lounge. Very many programs, as well as news at 8 that you should not miss out, because we are bringing updates as they happen in the country. My name is Carol. On social media it is Carol Amani, and of course I will be waiting for you to follow. I'll follow back, and we will have, of course, a harmonious conversation on social media. But don't forget to follow us on Church of Uganda Family TV on all social media platforms. We are available. But from us and the entire production crew, it's a good morning. Have a blessed day.
Issues at Hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV, enriching lives.